Hey everyone, welcome to this workshop on fast and effective SEO. My name is Kyle Roof. I'm one of the co-creators of Page Optimizer Pro. We're going to talk a little bit about how to do fast and effective SEO, and then I'm going to show you how Pop's new content brief and also the Pop Chrome extension can help you accomplish those goals. I'm going to click to share my screen. All right, fast and effective SEO. So you probably everyone is in the situation where you need to produce SEO'd content that is effective content, and often people get to the point where like, well, okay, well, now what? The other thing that you realize very quickly is that you probably need to do SEO at scale, and SEO at scale is probably more than one. And in order to do these things quickly and effectively, it really comes down to knowing which terms to place where on the page, and then having a repeatable process to get that done. It's important to understand that there are three types of important terms for a web page. These are terms that Google is looking for that helps Google understand what this page is about. Should they index this page for a particular term or terms? And then should they rank it higher than other pieces of content that are trying to do the same type of thing? The first thing are your primary keywords. This is usually the obvious thing. This is the thing that you want to rank for. If your ideal client is sitting down in front of their computer and then they type into a Google search, this is probably the term that they're typing in. That is your primary keyword. It often has the most search volume if you're looking at search volume, but it's also often the most competitive. Not only do you want it, but your competitors want it as well. The next thing are variations and secondary keywords. These are two separate concepts. Variations are very close variations of your primary keyword, and you can get these from Google. When you do a search for your primary keyword, when you look in the SERPs, you'll see terms that are bolded in the SERPs. Those are variations. It's important to understand that you're often not trying to rank for those keywords because they are often parts of your longer phrase. If you were going after the term best purple frisbees, purple on its own is probably a variation. You're not trying to rank a page for the word purple, but it's important to use it because it is critically important to that main phrase. Proper usage also gets you away from keyword stuffing. A lot of people think that you need to put your primary keyword in a bunch of times, and while you do need to use it, you often need to use it less times than you would think, and your variations are often very, very important. The other thing is secondary keywords. These are long tail or variations of the primary keyword. These are related searches more often than not, or you can find these in Google Trends. If you do a search for your primary keyword and then scroll to the bottom, you'll find variations that are pretty close to it, but might add a best or cheap or affordable or something like that. It's close to what you're searching for or what your primary keyword is, but adds a modifier. You can often win those terms by properly optimizing for your primary keyword. And the ones that are really important, you want to get those on your page. The last thing are contextual terms. These provide meaning and context to your content. You can talk about a particular topic, but then with the contextual terms, the conversation or what you're talking about could take a completely different meaning. If your primary keyword was kitchens, you could talk about a sink, stove, refrigerator. Those are things within a kitchen. You're talking about a kitchen as a physical thing, but you could also say love, home, family. And the idea is that the kitchen is the heart of the home, and that's where families get together to spend special moments. And so while the main topic might be kitchen for both of those, they're completely different conversations, and contextual terms do that for you. These are often labeled as LSI. Old school SEOs don't like that term very much because it's a lazy term. It is inaccurate for saying contextual terms. Unfortunately for them, the industry just adopted that to mean contextual terms. So when I say LSI, I mean contextual terms. And we're just going to move past that. We can have that debate another time. But these are very important terms. It's very important to get them on your page so Google understands what you're talking about. A way to get these terms is to look at the most used terms from your competitors. When you're looking at, and by competitors, I mean the top 10 for a particular keyword. When you find those commonly used terms, you'll see that most often those are your LSI, your contextual terms, because they're necessary to be repeated across your competitors because they are all trying to express what they are talking about, and it'll be within a similar context. Now that you know that there are terms, there are also then places on a website that Google is actually looking for them. These places all are places that Google is looking, but they are not equal. Some have more weight or more importance to Google than others. I've got them broken up into groups for you. Group A is the most important. This is the place that Google is looking for and assigns the most weight to your primary keyword, your variations, and your contextual terms. That's Group A. So this is your meta title. Your meta title is your page title that search engines see. This is often what is displayed in search results. Most templates handle this automatically for you, but it's the page title that a search engine would see. This thing is an H1. That's often a page title that a human would see. It's usually the title that you see on your page. It's often a good idea to have those as the same title. I would not change them. But basically the meta title is for search engines, and your H1, your page title, is usually for humans. Body content, this is just the paragraph text that you have on the page. And your URL, the keyword in the URL is still a very strong signal. Those are the most important on-page places to put your important terms. The next set, Group B, these are also important, but they have a little less value. These are your H2s, H3s, H4s. Those are typically the subheadings or subtitles on your page. Good content is broken up into different sections. Those different sections should have their own subtitle. The content within those areas should be related to your primary concept. I like to think of these as a Roman numeral outline. If your Roman numeral 1 was your page title, your A's and B's are your subheadings, your H2s and H3s. They should obviously be on point. I think is anchor text. This is text that is on the page, not a backlink coming in, but text that is clickable. This clickable text can take you to a different spot on the page, such as a table of contents or a jump link, or this could be a link going to somewhere else on your site. If you like this, here's more information there, or it could be a link going to an authority site. Here's an authority site that explains more. That clickable text is a strong signal. Group C, these have less value. They have some value, but certainly not as much as Group A and B. These are things like your bold and italic terms. They have a little value, not a lot, but a little. Your image alt. This is the description of an image. This was a very old school way to spam Google, and Google figured it out fairly quickly. But while it does not have the weight that it used to, it still has some. Group D, I point these out because these are things that are not seen on the page itself. You still get value out of them. If you're just starting off in SEO, don't worry about this group too much. If you're using a modern page template, you're using WordPress or something like that, most page templates handle this automatically for you. These are things like schema. Schema are tags that go inside a web page, and they explain to search engines what certain things are. Open Graph, this is the code that Facebook uses when it's looking at links. Google also crawls it. HTML tags, these are the tags that are descriptive within the text that search engines use to build the page so that it can be displayed to your visitors. Google crawls all of that. They're all ranking factors. I wouldn't worry about them if you're just starting off. If you're looking for more advanced SEO, those are good places to jump in. But otherwise, don't sweat it, because usually a modern page template will handle all of that for you. So we're getting to fast and effective. How to do that? Put your primary keyword in Group A. That thing that somebody is searching for, that's your ideal visitor to your page, and you want them to put it into Google, put it into Group A. So your meta title, your URL, your H1, and one time in the body. Don't worry about stuffing it in. Just do it appropriately, but at least get it one time in there. For fast and effective SEO, those variations and secondary terms, think about those in Group B. So focus on your H2s and H3s. Those are your natural subheadings on a page. Find 2 to 3 that you like and use them as your subheadings. So again, scroll to the bottom of the SERPs, find those related searches, grab 2 or 3 of those, and then use those as your subheadings, and you should be able to pepper in your variations from there. Those subheadings should naturally lend itself to good writing. It should be related to what you are writing about. If it's not, don't use it. But by putting those in, you should naturally be able just to use your variations without having to use your keyword phrase, that primary one, repeated times. Contextual terms, put them in the following. in your body content, your H2s and H3s, your image alts and file names, bold and italic text, lists and tables. It shouldn't be too tricky to do that. Often I advise people just write. So you've got, your main topic and your title, you've got your subheadings. From there, on a first run, just write. Your contextual terms should happen naturally because you should be writing good content. Then I would come back in and check to make sure that you've hit proper ranges. If you haven't, that's when I would do some editing. But if you build around elements of a page, those subheadings, perhaps images, lists, and tables, if you build around those things, you usually end up writing a really good page that not only satisfies what Google wants, but also what humans want. That's where SEO and good content often go hand in hand, is by writing around elements. Your contextual terms should be there. And then I would come back in as a check to make sure that I've hit the ranges that are good for that. Your word count. The easy thing is to eyeball your competitors. Maybe go like a smidge higher. Look at the types of pages that Google wants or is rewarding for your keyword. Get their word counts and then go just a little bit higher than that. If you're unable to do that, worst case, I would shoot for 1,300. If you're really in a bind, you just need to get content out and going and you can't do a lot of research into what you're trying to accomplish with ranking this page, somewhere between 1,000 and 1,500 is usually pretty good. Shoot for 1,300. Now, an advanced tip. That's stuff that's on your page. Here's a little bit of an advanced tip for you. Find 3 to 5 supporting keywords. These are terms that support your target, your primary keyword and your target page. Sometimes you can get them on, but sometimes it's not the easiest to get these phrases on there. That's why they make really good supporting content, because they're around your main topic, but they might go a little bit farther, a little more in depth than you would on a target page. People also ask us where you want to get these from. Turn your primary keyword into a question. You'll get a people also ask box from Google. Grab 3 to 5 of those that are good and then write content about them and then link back up to your target page. You've now created relevancy in your site about that target page. You're linking back up. And the other nice thing is these things can often get links on their own because you're not selling anything on those pages. You're simply answering good questions, and that will naturally bring traffic to your site, naturally bring links to your site. It turns into a cycle of good. You've taken the time to optimize your primary phrase. You've built this relevant content. It's now linking in, and you'll find that it just does a lot of good for your site. So that's fast and effective. Now let's talk about with some science and some math involved, and that's kind of where Page Optimizer Pro comes in. And in particular, Page Optimizer Pro's Content Brief. This is a new feature that we've recently launched. The Content Brief takes Pop's signal by signal approach and makes some of the harder decisions for you. Within the signal approach, Pop will say, okay, use 4 variations here and 3 variations there, signal by signal. What the Content Brief does is that we then make those decisions on which terms you should exactly use for those different areas. So not only do we tell you, okay, this is the spot to use them, but we actually get very specific about which terms you should actually use. And when we're able to do that, because we're able to make some assumptions on your behalf as to what is effective SEO for your particular keyword. That's also then the gap between, I think, that good content and SEO content. Your good content should have these things in it. It's not just SEO content at this point. It is actual good content because it should satisfy certain things of what you're talking about, the variations of your keyword and the contextual terms. That then lends itself to that good SEO and good content. Then you can do things quickly with Pop's Chrome extension. I'm going to show you how to do that today, so you don't have to continually rerun Pop. You get your recommendations exactly where you are editing. You can give the recommendations to your content writer, and they never have to log into your Pop account. I think you'll find it's quite effective for getting that good content that's also effective, done quickly, and also done at scale. I'm going to switch over on my screen. All right, so I'm in Pop. I've done a run. I'm now at the card to click into the dashboard. I'm just going to click to enter. And now in Pop, you go directly into the content brief. So there's the summary at the top where it has our target keyword. In this case, it's boat insurance. This is a fictional example. I do not have a boat, nor do I need boat insurance. And also, if you see the domain or the URL that was used, I have no relationship with them. They were simply on page 2 for this term. So I figured they would need some work, and it would be a good example. So at the very top, the keyword here, boat insurance, our word count. There's the current word count and the target word count, then also a suggested amount to increase. Subheadings, those H2s and H3s. In this case, it's recommended to use about 7. You also see this optimization score. And if you're familiar with POP previously, there's an optimization score, and these scores are different. The previous score, which you still have, and if you still prefer that method, it is there for you to use. The previous score was relative to your competitors and the competitors you're using for your strategy. And advanced SEOs know that it's not always the best to get to 100% because there are times when your competitors have done things that are not great. You don't want to completely emulate their SEO strategy. In the content brief, we have made all those decisions for you of should I do this or should I do that, or when should I do this or when should I do that. And so as a result, in the content brief, you can and should get to 100%. It's the kind of thing that makes it easier for your content writers as well, as because you tell them we just need to get to 100%, and they should be able to do that. And the way they do that is to get into the proper range for 3 different sections. We've broken up the page into a page title, subheadings, and main content. And for each section, we've given a target range for your important terms. So we tell you your current usage and then the target usage. And then we also give very specific recommendations on what to do for any kind of scenario that you might run into. For example, here, they have used boat insurance 2 times, but the target range is once. Should they delete? They can scroll over here and see that no. In this case, the answer is no. Do not delete this term from your page. If possible, use it as part of a longer phrase or use another important term to get into your target range. You can also see through color coding what they should be focusing on or if they're getting close or not. Here also, insurance on its own, excuse me, and boat on its own, well, those are part of the longer phrase. And here, POP has identified that these terms should be used on their own. So in addition to using the phrase boat insurance as a primary keyword, if possible, for the most effective SEO you can do, use them also on their own and then get within that target range. Once you get within the target range, that light will turn green, the score will improve. If you are adding to it and then checking your score, the score will not improve that much because we have made decisions on this is what you need to do. And really the point is to do that, to get within those ranges. So incrementally increasing keywords here and there or important terms here and there probably will not increase your score very much, if at all. You really do need to get into the correct range. Something that's interesting about this this example site is that they just have a blob of text. They actually have no subheadings. They're not breaking up their text at all. You can see they're really shooting themselves in the foot, creating opportunities with their H2s and H3s. They can break up their text. It's going to be better for humans. It's also going to be better for search engines. And you can see the ranges that they need to get into there. At the very bottom, we also have this additional feature. We pull out page structure suggestions for you here, bold, italic terms, images, etc. But then we also pull out your competitor titles so you can get inspiration on a title that Google will like. This is what Google is currently rewarding. We pull out those related keywords, those searches that are at the bottom of a SERP. We pull them out for you so that you can use them, and we advise using them as your H2s and H3s where appropriate. In this case, best boat insurance, cheapest boat insurance, maybe affordable is a good term there. Coverage is a great concept. You can see how you can create a very good page around all of those terms. Additionally, through AI, we're able to create questions. And for most keywords, we can create these questions. We do pull them, some from the people also ask, but we have a few other ways to do it as well. And so the ones that are most relevant, these are also great to use for sections on your page. And then as we talked about in that advanced tip, you can use those, use these to create supporting content as well. And you can link back up into your target page, again, creating that cycle of good. This also creates, your strategy for the next probably month. You've built the page, you've optimized for it. Now you can create all this content that's going to support it, and you're just going to do really effective SEO. Now, something that I'm really proud of is the Pop Chrome extension. So I've got this secret key here at the top, and I'm going to grab that secret key. And I'm going to switch my view real quick. So I'm here in a Google Doc. What I'm going to do is I'm going to open the Pop Chrome extension. I'm going to click to start. My internet is slow. I'm going to click to use the secret key. I'm going to copy and paste in that secret key. Hit to load the page run. I'm going to select that I'm in a Google Doc and confirm it. And then here are those recommendations pulled in directly where I'm editing in this Google Doc. The Pop Chrome extension works with Google Docs. It also works with all major WordPress editors, but it also works with Joomla, Drupal, Wix, Squarespace, Shopify, pretty much all the major page editors. And one thing to note, remember the score previously was 17. Well, the Pop Chrome extension is actually looking now at this blank Google Doc and taking into consideration it updates in real time. So if I scroll down to the main content area, I see I need boat insurance within paragraph text. So I'm just going to write boat insurance. I'm then going to scroll up and check my work. And you can see the score updates immediately in real time. And also the counts update. So you don't have to continue to rerun Pop. Work, implement the recommendations where you are editing or where you're creating your content, and then use the Pop Chrome extension. This will dramatically speed up your workflow. And additionally, as I mentioned before, simply tell your content provider, I just need to see greens in each of these sections, and then you know that you have very effective SEO content done for you and done quickly. If you have, say, account managers or some process or workflow, this speeds up their time as well. They don't need to go in and make these decisions. The content brief has made those optimization decisions for them. And then when the content creator gives the work back to them, all they simply need to do is double check that we're in greens for each section and that the score is 100%. And then you know you've got effective SEO, something that you can be proud of to take to the client to know that it's going to get the job done for SEO. You can kind of think of this as like an 80-20 rule, because there will be things to tweak that are very specific that you might, as an advanced SEO, you go in and maybe need to tweak this or that. That would probably be a second run through the content after it's been posted. But I also think 80-20 sells it a little short. I think this is more effective than that. This is more like a 90-10. And for very competitive terms, in very competitive niches, then you would probably need to go in and look at some specific signals. But that's where you can go back into Pop, get the signal data, and find maybe a few edges here and there that would not be included in the content brief. So that is the main presentation for you on what we're doing now with Pop. I'm super excited about it. The content brief, I think, takes advanced SEO and makes it as simple as possible to implement. And I really think it's like having an advanced SEO over your shoulder. You might be in advanced SEO, but it's always nice to bounce ideas off of people. This is kind of that thing that's like, what would an SEO do? This is what an SEO would do in these situations. So I'll hang on. We have a few people on. I do appreciate the people that are here, especially on the short notice that this Webby was done. But if you have any questions, I'm more than happy to go through them, and I'll hang on as long as anyone would need. Excuse me, I got a tickle in the back of my throat. Tim says, I've seen big differences in the content brief numbers, and then looking at the LSI and variation, should we rely more on the content brief? What the content brief has done is it's edited those numbers down. The numbers that you see are going to be broadly across an entire page. The content brief is looking at very specific sections, and it's also making very specific choices for you. It also does a different form of counting than the regular system does, where in the signals by signals, because we can't make assumptions on where people, which types of phrases people are using. In the signals by signals, all those terms will be counted individually. On the content brief side, they're counted in a filtered manner, taking into account all the different usages. So those numbers will be different, and I would rely on the content brief numbers. Chris mentions advanced SEO, nothing is better than reverse engineering rankings. That is the key on this, isn't it? Definitely. If competitors are using silo pages to rank a particular page, does Pop see and recommend anything for it? Pop will only look at the page that you put in the competitor pages that you're doing. You would need a site audit tool probably to do that, to find some interlinking, and Pop does not do that currently. But what I would recommend doing is, I can tell you from experience, a lot of people do not silo very well and do not create supporting content very well. So if you take those questions, the related questions that Pop pulls out, or you can get those from like People Also Ask, or Answer the Public is another great tool for those types of things. If you create that as part of your campaign, where we're going to do a few of these, and really probably the more the better. But if you do that as a regular part of your SEO, I think you'll find that you're going to get an edge on your competitors. Do you aim for 100%, or is getting to 80% fine? For the content brief, you want 100%. That means you've gotten everything in the correct range, and you cannot get 100% unless you've done that. Now, on the signals side, usually around 80% is pretty good SEO, because that is relative to your competitors. And so again, you don't necessarily want to do everything that your competitors have done. And as an SEO, you can make those choices. On the content brief side, we made all those choices. And so getting to 100% is what you should strive for, because we said these are the target ranges based on all these decisions that would be made. This is now what you need to do. So you want to get to 100% there. Chris says, one thing I have seen with different tools for content briefs is the word pool. It's often polluted with stop words. Any thoughts there? We have put in a lot of filtering to try to get rid of stop words as much as possible. We've also got a lot of filtering that goes into words that do not appear to be important. Things do slip in. Within Pop, you can do a full run and remove those terms. We allow you to edit, to add, subtract. I would never add really to that list unless something is really glaringly missing, such as lawyer and attorney. We know those are basically the same term. If you have something very similar like that, then I might add those in to my variations. But otherwise, I'm not going to add too much. I would only subtract if you see something that is snuck in. An interesting question that hit me the other day was about cookie policy, and they were saying, cookie policy is showing up on these. And my thought there was, you know what? That's probably important to the text at that point. Google will be reading that, so you might, I can understand removing it, but you may not want to. Like, you may want to make sure that you have a cookie policy as well, and Google is reading it. Tim says, I'm seeing near me searches outnumber traditional keywords. How can we optimize for those also? Well, is that the target phrase? If it is, that's the kind of thing that you want to consider that for your H1. But if it's not, if it's the kind of thing that is showing up as a related search, that's awesome stuff that you can put in for your H2s and H3s. And I would use those as subheadings. The other thing you can do too is, like, for supporting content, maybe you can do driving directions or talk about different things that you're located nearby that it is near, and then you can start to get some of that relevancy on your site. Steve says he needs to get some content writers to start using this tool. That's the whole idea. Really, the goal with the content brief is that you can give this to somebody and they can know nothing about SEO. All they would need to know is what a page title is and what an H2 and H3 are, and that's basically it. I think that's kind of the minimum standard at this point. If anybody's been on a web page, by the way, they probably know what those are. You can explain that within a handful of minutes. But really, the idea is that you can give this to somebody. They don't have to understand anything about SEO. They can produce this content for you. In their minds, they just have to get to greens, and get to 100%, and then you've got a page that is very well SEO'd. All right, I'll hang on just for another minute. And again, actually, I'm happy to hang on more than that. If you're in IMG, you can always post questions in the Pop topic there. I do answer those questions and check them out. You can also hit live chat support. That's on from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. Pacific time. I don't man that each minute, but they can get a hold of me if it's necessary. There's a question about Thailand. I am moving to Thailand. Our visa has been approved and we fly next Wednesday. We're pretty excited about it. It was a pretty long process to try to get our visas in these uncertain times, but we've been able to do it. if you're at spot 10, do you think it's still worth trying on-page adjustments, or at that point focus on links? One thing I do in those situations is I make sure that I'm not missing anything glaring. So I would put in the other 9 competitors, and then I would see what they're doing compared to what I have done. And if you might find some spots that you realize, like, you know what, they're crushing me on my H2s and H3s. So they are getting significantly more contextual terms on the page than I am. I would check out for those types of things. But if you realize you're pretty close to what they're doing, I wouldn't fiddle that much with that type of page, and I would then focus on other signals. I'd be then looking at how many backlinking domains do each of those sites have? How many citations do they have if it's a business type term or a local type term? And then I would start making essentially the same type of math comparison, that you're doing in POP, where you're looking for those edges. Okay, whether they're doing this and we can do this a little bit more. That's what POP's algorithm is doing. We're not doing correlation analysis. We're not giving averages. We're actually comparing what those sites have done and then making recommendations to beat them. And beating them can be parity, doing it within this, doing it similar to how they're doing it, but beating them can be a little bit more and sometimes a little bit less. And that's what POP is doing. You can do the same thing then with other signals, looking at their backlinking domains. Do you need as many as they have? Do you need the same ones? Do you need more? Do you need less? Those are then those decisions you can make, but I do the same type of process. All right. We've been on for a half hour, so I think I'll stop it there. I really do appreciate everybody jumping on. Like I said, in a short notice, I completely forgot to hit record from the one that I did yesterday and needed to get this done, but then I thought some people might want to jump on. So thanks so much. Appreciate your time. And if you have any questions, again, ping me in IMG or ping live support or send an email to support, and we'll make sure we'll get you taken care of. Thanks so much.